You spend a massive chunk of your waking life at work. I mean, you know your daily tasks. You know how to navigate all the intricate office politics.
Right, you probably even know exactly how long the break room microwave takes to heat up yesterday's leftovers.
Down to the exact second. But how well do you actually know the rules of the game if things suddenly go south? Like, if the relationship with your employer just breaks down tomorrow, do you actually know what your rights are? Or are you just, assuming the system will somehow protect you?
Honestly, most people have absolutely no idea until they are right in the middle of a crisis. We tend to assume workplace laws are, well, straightforward. Like if you do a good job, you're safe.
Yeah.
And if something unfair happens, there's just a clear button you can press to fix it. But the reality is an incredibly complex, high-stakes labyrinth.
Which is exactly our mission for today's deep dive. We are exploring the reality of Australian workplace rights. And to do this, we're unpacking a massive stack of case files, legal articles, and service details from the Australian Workplace Discrimination Representatives, or AWDR.
Yes, AWDR.
And they are a specialized firm of non-lawyer workplace relations experts. They've been providing strategic guidance and representation for everyday Australians for over 30 years, and they've dealt with more than 16,000 clients.
Having that sheer volume of case files gives us an incredible vantage point for this deep dive. Because when you represent that many everyday workers, you see literally every possible way an employment relationship can break down. I mean, you start to see the patterns.
Right. And our goal today is to cut through all that dense legal jargon for you and look at what actually happens when these relationships fail. So we're covering everything from everyday office misunderstandings to massive multi-million-dollar showdowns that make national headlines.
But to understand how a normal Tuesday at the office turns into a multi-million-dollar showdown, we really have to start with the foundational framework of Australian workplace law.
Because how a dispute gets classified from day one, that completely changes the trajectory of the whole claim, right?
Oh, absolutely. It changes the time frames, the process, and crucially, the financial outcomes. Looking at the AWDR files, there are two major categories we need to distinguish right off the bat: unfair dismissal and general protections.
And getting this wrong is apparently a very common and, very costly mistake.
It is the most critical fork in the road. So let's look at unfair dismissal first. This is basically when an employee is let go in an unjust manner without a valid reason.
Yes.
Or, they're forced to resign, which the system calls constructive dismissal.
Right.
Essentially, it means the employer failed to follow proper protocol or just basic fairness. It's highly procedural.
Like, did they have a documented reason?
Exactly. Did the employer have a valid documented reason for the firing? Did they give the employee a formal chance to respond to the allegations? Did they follow their own internal HR policies?
Okay, and the crucial detail here for unfair dismissal, the really big thing for you to remember, is that the compensation is strictly capped by statute. There is a hard ceiling on what you can win.
Yes, capped, but then you step over the line into the second category, general protections, which is also known as adverse action. And this is the heavyweight division.
The heavyweight division.
This happens when an employer takes adverse action against a worker, specifically because that worker exercised a fundamental workplace right, like making a safety complaint or joining a union, or because they have a protected attribute like their race, religion, or sex.
Okay, so I was trying to wrap my head around this distinction, and I came up with an analogy. Tell me if this works.
Let's hear it.
Think about it like the difference between getting a penalty in a sports match because you accidentally tripped another player and broke a procedural rule versus getting banned from the league entirely because you reported the referee for taking bribes and the league retaliated against you.
Oh, I like that.
One is a procedural penalty within the normal game. The other is a violation of the fundamental integrity and rights of the players themselves.
That's spot on. The law treats these two categories completely differently based on what it's trying to achieve. Unfair dismissal laws exist to ensure basic procedural fairness in an economic transaction.
Right.
But general protections, those exist to safeguard fundamental human rights and physical and psychological safety in society. When an employer violates general protections, the legal system responds with far more severity. The first is an operational mistake, And the second is a structural threat to the entire system.
Because general protections deal with those fundamental rights, the financial consequences for employers operate under completely different rules, limitless rule.
Limitless, yes.
That word really jumps out of the AWDR documents.
Yeah.
We always hear about caps on lawsuits, but general protections claims have absolutely no statutory compensation cap.
None at all.
Which brings us to a case that will probably make your jaw drop. We're talking about Kyle Sandilands, the KIIS FM radio star.
Oh man, this case.
In March 2026, he reached an out-of-court settlement with ARN Media. They agreed to pay him over $12 million for general protections and contractual violations, plus another $1.5 million for his media company.
$12 million. I mean, while a massive celebrity case like that is obviously an outlier in terms of the raw numbers, the mechanics of how that payout is legally possible apply to every single worker in Australia.
Because the damages are uncapped.
Exactly. The courts calculate payouts based on the actual total devastation caused by the employer's actions. They look at past economic loss, which is, the lost wages from the day you were fired up until the judgment.
Makes sense.
Then they calculate future economic loss, compensating you for income you're likely to lose going forward because your career trajectory was completely derailed.
Right, because you can't just easily jump into another job sometimes.
Exactly. Then they add general damages to cover the actual distress, humiliation, and psychological injury. They could even include future medical expenses if the situation severely impacted your health.
And that's just the compensation meant to make the employee whole. There's also the punitive side, right?
Yes, the penalties.
The courts can slap employers with civil penalties. Currently, that's up to roughly $93,900 per contravention for a company. And they can fine individuals, too.
This is the part that shocks a lot of people.
Yeah, a specific manager who orchestrated the retaliation can be personally fined up to $18,780 per contravention out of their own pocket.
That individual penalty is a massive deterrent. The law is literally designed to pierce the corporate veil, so a manager can't just hide behind the company logo while violating fundamental rights.
Wait, let me stop you there, though. We keep using this term adverse action. Does that just mean getting fired? When we hear these giant payouts, you naturally assume it means someone was dramatically sacked? Or is there more to it?
Oh, there's way more. Firing is just the final, most extreme form of adverse action. The scope is actually incredibly broad, and it usually starts happening long before anyone actually loses their job.
Like what?
Well, adverse action includes being mysteriously overlooked for a promotion you were completely in line for. It includes having your shifts suddenly cut, or being given all the terrible weekend graveyard shifts right after you made a safety complaint.
Oh, so retaliation. That just makes your life miserable.
Exactly. It could be getting suspended without pay for an unreasonably long time while they, quote-unquote, investigate something trivial. It could even just be having your daily responsibilities stripped away to humiliate you, leaving you sitting at a desk with nothing to do.
Wow.
It's basically any action that materially alters your position to your disadvantage based on a protected right.
So it's the slow squeeze as well as the sudden drop.
Very well put, yes.
And looking at the AWDR case files, massive payouts aren't just for celebrities. Everyday workers face astonishingly bad behavior and secure huge settlements. Let's talk about the Duarte versus UAE Ministry of Foreign Affairs case.
Yeah, this one is wild.
A waitress at a Melbourne consulate was awarded over $200,000. The court found a deliberate pattern of discriminatory treatment. Get this, they actually required her to express breast milk in a storeroom and store it in an ice container.
Unbelievable.
And they completely refused her parental leave before eventually dismissing her. How does an employer even justify putting breast milk in an ice container?
Well, they usually don't justify the specifics in a cartoon villain sort of way. What happens is a slow degradation of standards and a total lack of empathy.
Right.
An employer refuses to make reasonable accommodations, claiming operational needs or a lack of space, and they just dig their heels in until the situation becomes grotesque.
Grotesque is definitely the word.
In this case, it was a clear-cut violation of protected attributes regarding sex and family responsibilities. The employer didn't just fail a procedural step, they engaged in fundamentally discriminatory behavior that stripped the employee of her dignity.
Then there's Barlow versus St. Vincent de Paul Society. An operations manager was awarded over $599,000 in economic loss alone, plus general damages and penalties.
Over $500,000.
And the reason? An HR manager concealed the employee's bullying complaints and actively deceived the CEO into signing her termination letter. I mean, how does a court even uncover that kind of deception?
Through the digital paper trail. This is exactly why these cases take time. The legal process forces the discovery of emails, timestamps, meeting notes, and metadata.
So they can see exactly who knew what and when?
Exactly. In the Barlow case, the court can see the timeline clear as day. The employee submits a bullying complaint, and instead of investigating it, the HR manager orchestrates a sham redundancy. And they feed the CEO a sanitized version of events to get the termination sign.
Wow.
When an HR manager covers up a complaint to facilitate a firing, it's a textbook general protections violation. The federal court aggressively punishes cover-ups.
Honestly, looking at the AWDR blog titles, the sheer variety of human conflict they deal with is staggering. I just have to read some of these titles.
Go for it.
From MAFS villain to dismissed employee, when reality TV ruins careers. Or, how about dismissed for racist jokes, fart pranks, and orgasm noises?
Yeah, you really see it all.
And my personal favorite, stick it up your ass. Worker loses forced resignation claim.
I mean, people spend a third of their lives at work. When personalities clash or stress levels peak or office culture gets toxic, behavior becomes completely irrational. People do and say bizarre things.
Clearly.
But the legal framework's job is to sort through all of that noisy, messy human behavior to find the objective truth. Did the employee have a protected right? Was the employer's action adverse? Was the adverse action taken because of the protected right?
To really understand how complex and messy these disputes get for you, the listener, we need to trace a single specific case from the very first HR warning to the final judge's gavel. Let's look at the anatomy of a dispute through the case of Hahn versus St. Basil's Homes from 2025.
This is a phenomenal case study. It has all the hallmarks of a complex workplace breakdown. You've got performance management, interpersonal conflict, formal complaints, and ultimate retaliation.
Okay, here's the setup. Wei Han, who also goes by Casey, was a registered nurse. She worked at a Sydney aged care facility for over 9 years. Around mid-2019, her workload increases substantially. She starts feeling that a clique of colleagues is being favored over her in shift allocations.
Right.
She feels targeted. So in September, she issues a massive 6-page formal complaint alleging she's being bullied and targeted, and she specifically connects this to her Chinese race, noting the favored clique was of a different background.
Now, that is the critical moment in the timeline. She has now explicitly exercised a workplace right by making a formal complaint, and she has invoked a protected attribute by citing her race.
Okay.
From this moment forward, any action the employer takes against her is going to be heavily scrutinized by the law to ensure it isn't retaliation.
But Han wasn't perfect either. Around this exact same time, she's accused of calling a colleague a bitch during a shift handover. She claimed it was just a joke, an attempt at humor. But the facility investigates and issues her a first and final warning.
And importantly, the court later agreed that this was a valid warning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the employer genuinely believed she breached the code of conduct. This is a vital point for people to understand.
Yeah.
Having a protected attribute or making a complaint doesn't suddenly make you immune to legitimate performance management.
Right.
If you break a rule, you can still be disciplined.
That makes sense. But things escalate quickly. In December, Han instructs a team leader to administer oxygen to a deteriorating resident. Fast forward to January, and the employer fires her. But they don't just stop at firing her.
Oh, they go way further.
They file a formal complaint against her with the National Health Regulator, alleging she breached patient privacy, acted outside her clinical scope, and engaged in bullying.
It's the ultimate scorched earth tactic. They didn't just remove her from their own workplace. They tried to dismantle her professional license and end her career entirely.
But the regulator actually looks at the complaint and drops it, calling the allegations imprecise and taking no further action. So Han takes St. Basil's Homes to the federal court under a general protections claim. And the verdict is a brutal takedown of the employer.
Brutal.
The court found her firing was a trumped-up attack substantially motivated by her race and her complaints.
The court found that the employer essentially weaponized her own complaint. Instead of properly investigating her 6-page document, they turned the tables on her. They used the oxygen incident as a totally flimsy excuse to get rid of her.
Right.
In fact, the court discovered there wasn't even a written policy prohibiting a team leader from administering oxygen. Plus, she was completely denied procedural fairness. She wasn't even told what the allegations against her were before her disciplinary meetings.
The financial breakdown of the payout is fascinating. She was awarded a total of $381,559.
That's a significant payout.
Yeah, and it breaks down to 175 grand for past economic loss, about 61 grand for future loss, 75 grand in general damages, 10 grand for medical, and 60,000 in direct penalties paid to her.
Right.
But hold on, the sources note that Han originally demanded over $2 million, and the judge actually criticized her for this, calling her demand ambitious and saying she paid little attention to the statutory norms.
Yes.
If she went through this massive ordeal and the employer acted so maliciously by trying to destroy her nursing license, why is the judge criticizing her for asking for $2 million? Can't you just ask for a massive number when they've clearly done the wrong thing?
It's a really common reaction, but it illustrates the strict rationality of the court system versus the psychological trauma of the victim. When someone tries to destroy your professional identity by reporting you to a national health regulator, you feel an immense existential threat. Victims often calculate their demands based on emotional revenge. They want a life-changing amount of money to punish the employer.
Yeah, I'd probably feel the exact same way.
Exactly. But general protections claims, even though they are uncapped, they are not a blank check. Every single dollar of damages must be meticulously proven with evidence.
So it's about cold, hard math, not righteous anger.
Precisely. You have to prove exactly how much income you lost through tax returns and pay slips. You have to provide psychiatric evidence of your distress. The core goal of the court is restorative, to make the worker financially whole as if the discrimination never happened.
I see.
The judge's criticism was a reminder that the court isn't handing out lottery tickets. You have to bridge the gap between your emotional pain and actual financial restitution using rigorous proof.
Okay, but hearing about Han's multi-year battle, the scorched earth tactics, and the dramatic federal courtroom showdown, it makes it sound like every single dispute ends up in front of a judge. If I get into a workplace dispute tomorrow, is my only option a 5-year legal war?
Oh, not even close. The dramatic courtroom showdowns make the headlines, sure, but they represent a very small fraction of the actual legal landscape. The system is actually engineered to keep you out of the courtroom whenever possible.
Really?
Yeah. If we look at the Fair Work Commission data from the 2024 to 2025 financial year, they finalized 6,089 general protections claims. Out of all those thousands of claims, only 33% ended up with a certificate to actually proceed to court.
Wow, only 33%. So what happens to the rest of them?
Well, 5% get thrown out entirely on what they call jurisdictional grounds.
What does jurisdictional grounds actually mean for a normal person?
It basically means the claim didn't meet the basic technical requirements to even be considered.
Like a technicality.
Yeah. For example, maybe the person missed the strict 21-day time limit to file the claim after being fired. Or maybe they were an independent contractor who didn't actually qualify as an employee under the specific laws they were trying to use. If you don't fit the jurisdiction, the claim is dead on arrival.
Got it.
But the biggest chunk of the data is the 52%, more than half of all claims that were settled at a conciliation conference.
Okay, conciliation conference. Is that like a mini courtroom with a judge banging a gavel?
No, it's very different. A conciliation conference is a private, confidential negotiation mediated by an independent third party, usually someone from the Fair Work Commission.
Okay.
You aren't arguing the intricate legal merits in front of a judge. You're trying to reach a pragmatic compromise. Picture this. You're in a tense environment, often sitting in a room or a virtual breakout room across from the manager who just fired you, or the HR department that ignored your complaints.
That sounds awful.
The conciliator shuttles back and forth between the two parties, trying to get you both to agree on a financial settlement number, so everyone could just walk away without going to a full trial.
That sounds incredibly stressful. I mean, you're emotionally compromised sitting across from the very people who derailed your life, trying to negotiate a dollar amount.
It is incredibly stressful.
And I guess this is exactly where specialist representatives like AWDR come into the picture. The sources highlight that they operate 7 days a week, their phones are answered by actual humans in Australia 24/7, and they offer no-win, no-fee structures for certain claims. Their whole model seems built around this specific reality of the data.
Yes. They're providing representation and strategic guidance in those exact tense moments. They aren't lawyers dragging you into a 5-year court battle just to rack up hourly fees.
Right.
They're workplace relations experts who understand the mechanics of conciliation. When you're sitting in that conference and emotions are running high, having experienced backing means someone is there to objectively assess the employer's settlement offer.
Because you probably can't see straight.
Exactly. They compare that offer against what you could realistically, meticulously prove in court, exactly like the judge required in the Hahn case. It's about getting the quickest, most effective resolution while saving the immense cost, time, and psychological toll of a trial.
Well, we've covered a massive amount of ground today. What is the absolute core takeaway for you, the listener? The modern workplace is bound by incredibly strict, complex rules. Knowing the difference between a procedural unfair dismissal and a heavyweight general protections claim isn't just legal trivia for your next pub quiz.
Absolutely not.
It's literally the difference between walking away empty-handed and securing your financial future after a career-derailing event.
Knowledge is the only reliable way to protect yourself. You have to understand that your workplace rights are not just polite suggestions. They are legally enforceable boundaries that carry limitless financial weight if crossed.
And that leaves us with a final thought to ponder today. We learned earlier that under general protections, individual managers can be personally fined up to $18,780 for participating in adverse action against an employee.
Yeah, out of their own bank account?
It really makes you wonder, as workplace laws get stricter and these personal financial penalties grow, at what point does stepping into a middle management role become too much of a personal financial risk for the average person to take on?
It's a profound shift in corporate responsibility. The shield of the company no longer protects the individual who actually pulls the trigger.
You spend a third of your life at work, but the rules of the game are constantly shifting beneath your feet. Stay curious, keep digging into the why behind the information around you, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.